And welcome back to this space. Welcome back to all of you who are out there who are looking to figure out how to fast successfully. That's what we're doing today. Hey, if you're new to me, I'm Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. In this year, we are breaking free from all of those things that bind us. We are presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best plans for our life. We're talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes, who are interested in improving their health metabolically. That's what we're doing here. If you're new to me, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with a hand clap. Let you know that we are excited that you are here. And if you have questions as we move throughout this episode, go ahead and drop those in the chat because we want to identify those as we're looking through the comments and get back and answer those questions for you. I am in the process of describing what it is like and what needs to happen as you are preparing for a fast, as you get through the fast, and of course, as you break the fast. So we'll talk about what my blood sugars are. You'll see those come up here in just a minute. Actually, why not just do that? So right now, you'll see that is what my blood sugar is. That is what my freestyle. I have to think for a minute. That's what my Freestyle Libre is saying that my blood sugar is. If you were with us last night, you saw me at about 51 hours or so. And we'll talk a little bit about that in just a minute. The other thing that you'll take a look at is my glucose monitor, which will show up right here, right below me. Off to the side, I've got these guys. This is my Keto Mojo and my Contour, which we'll take a look at here in just a minute, just so we can see what's been going on. Now, the question that you're asking is, what are we doing? And we'll get to that in just a minute. In the process of fasting, there are lots of questions that people have. And so in our last episode, I shared with you kind of the reason that I started fasting, what the benefits I get from fasting, what are some of the things that keep me going in my fast, and also shared with you a bit about my journey in the metabolic space, the challenges that I have. And there are so many people that are out there right now who are having similar challenges, who have similar questions. So make sure you go back and watch our episode from yesterday, and then you can continue with everything else that we're doing, right? On the channel, on the YouTube channel, there are the playlists that we have with all the episodes that we did in our last season, New Year, New You. Remember, we're using what we built on last time to continue our process in this season. And so Limitless Living is simply taking what we've done, taking the benefits that we've achieved, and moving those to a higher level. All right, so we're not giving up on any of those. We are just using them, repackaging them, and actually supercharging them. In the process of doing that, fasting continues to be one of those places, one of those tools that we're using to achieve that purpose. Okay? All right. So I am in this week. This is actually my third fast that I'm in right now. So I did a 40-hour fast. If you remember at the beginning of the week, we broke that fast. And we did that fast because we were coming out of a weekend where we were traveling. And so that was kind of my righting the ship, if you will. And so we started the fast, and we do a 72-hour fast normally on a weekly basis. And as I mentioned to you yesterday or day before, I had some cooking that I had to do. I am not good enough yet to be able to cook without tasting. And so as I was cooking, I tasted the food, and so broke that fast at 57-ish hours. Okay, 57 hours. And so back now, continuing to do the fast. Now, there are a couple of things that I'm going to talk about in that story that I want to make mention of so that we can begin understanding fasting a little better. It gives you a little bit more perspective. Before I do that, let me go ahead and do a check-in. Now, I am checking in because this is what we do when we're doing anything that we want to improve. Anytime you are working on a process, anytime you are putting something together that you need to monitor, you need to evaluate, you need to decide whether you're doing the things you need to do, this is the space, or these are the things that you want to look at. And there are three areas that I talk about when I do my check-in. They are how I'm feeling physically, how I'm feeling mentally, and then how I'm feeling emotionally. And I want you also, as you're evaluating various things that we learned, various tools, even in your personal life, you want to go ahead and you want to evaluate those as well. Before I do that, I want to go ahead and just hop on and say hello. I see. Well, let me pull it up, and you guys will get to see that with me as well. So Pamela is out there, and Pamela is saying hello. Hey Pamela, Pam? How are you? Glad that you are here. And I neglected to say, whatever platform you find yourself on, if you are on Instagram or LinkedIn or Twitch or Facebook, and then of course here on YouTube, we welcome you to this space today. So let's go ahead and let's hop over and let's do our check-in. And as I said, when I do my check-in, there are three areas that we want to discuss, and they are how I'm feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. Now, as part of this check-in, some comments. So I am not at my 72-hour fast, right? So remember, we did a fast earlier this week, 40 hours. We did a fast 56 hours, 57 hours. And so after that fast, I started eating, and we'll take a look at my blood sugar and see what happened, and then going into another fast, okay? And we'll kind of explain some of that here in a minute. So how am I feeling physically? I'm actually feeling energetic, right? Because as I moved through the various phases of fasting this week, I was doing a good job of managing my fatigue. I was resting. I was hydrating, right? Got my mug. And so I didn't feel some of the things that sometimes people will comment about when they're talking about fasting. You know, energy levels, lightheadedness, sweaty, dizzy, palpitations, and those all, well, many of them, come sometimes because we don't do a good job of preparing. Okay, so this week did a good job of preparing for the fast. Mental, I am feeling clear. I'm feeling excited, which we'll talk about here in a moment when we talk about emotional. But because of the energy, because of the resting, because of the hydration, then my thought processes are clear. They're not sluggish. They're not dull. I don't feel like I'm going through a bubble, as sometimes people will comment about. So all of that right now is good. And because I'm doing well in those other areas, then emotionally, I'm actually feeling pretty good. Now, that does not mean that there aren't things that happen on a day-to-day basis that can cause fluctuations in emotions. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying, as it relates to fasting, as it relates to how I'm feeling during the fast, felt good. And at each phase, right, like I said, I'm in the third fast for this week. All of those are places where, as I went through, because I was doing a good job of resting, hydration, not making sure there wasn't a lot of stress going on, then I felt good about those. All right, and then let's go ahead and hop over and let's take a look again at my blood sugars. And you'll see there, that is what my Libre says that my blood sugar is. And if you look right here, right there, you see that area, that squiggly line? That represents my blood sugar, okay? And that is what my blood sugar has been doing. We'll take a look here at my, let me get back here and be able to pull that up. Let's take a look at, close some of these other apps. We'll take a look at what my Dexcom is saying my blood sugar is. And you recall that the Dexcom and the Libre, well, actually all monitors can be different from each other, and they're allowed to be about 20% different. So let me go ahead and pull that up. And so here's my Dexcom. So my Dexcom right now says that my blood sugar is 149. And as you see, the Libre says 83, right? So that's quite a big difference between the two. But right now we'll just kind of take the relative difference. We'll assume that it's a valid difference, and we'll look at these numbers. So if I put my finger on the Dexcom, I can see that that's been kind of running 130, 140, 150. So earlier in the day, all right, so earlier in the day, I came into the morning 130, 140, 150. Right here, that was toothpaste. You see this climb that took us up to about 140, 150s, and it kind of stayed there and then started coming down. And right here is where I ate a handful of cashews, right? See right there, and then it started going up and then came back down. So what I'm gonna do is later on this afternoon, I'm gonna do I shouldn't say later on this afternoon. So I'm going to do an episode where I actually eat eat cashews and show you what happens to the blood sugars. Okay, so that's where we are right now. I also have off to the side, I've got my Keto Mojo and my Contour meters. Remember, the Keto Mojo gives me glucose, and then of course the Contour gives me glucose as well. But the Keto Mojo also gives me gives me ketones. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at those. Got my Lancets that we're going to take out, and these are the strips, not Lancets, but my strips, test strips. Get those in there. And for this guy, I'm going to open both of these. So here is the strip for my blood sugar for the Keto Mojo. Let's see where they go. There it is. Let's go ahead and get that in here. And then open up the ketone strip as well. And I'll just keep this off to the side. And I do that because I don't want to have to stick myself twice. Go into my little container and grab a Lancet. And these are, let's see, what brand are these? These are Unistick 3. Okay, and the way this works is most Lancets have something up top that you've got to kind of twist off. So let's go ahead. We're going to twist that off. All right, and then once that breaks in there, just pull that out. And this is spring loaded. So when I hit that lever right there, the Lancet that's inside has a little needle, and it'll come out. It'll give me a finger poke, and then we should see a flow of blood. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, hopefully that gave me a good, well, maybe not. Okay, so let's do that again. And this is the reason sometimes I like not the Unistick, the other ones that I was using before, because I can determine for myself how deep I go. For this one, I've got to press really hard, and if I'm not careful, okay, let's see if that worked. Okay, there we go. So that was a pretty brisk blood flow. Boom, boom, boom. Get that one in. Get that one going. And what do you think my ketones are going to be? Okay, so I fasted for 57 hours. So blood sugar, according to the Keto Mojo, 145. According to the Contour, 131. Let's go ahead and get this strip out. And let's get the strip for the ketones in. Make sure we still have a good drop of blood, because if that dries, then I have to stick myself again. And I think that's going to work, hopefully. There we go. I think that, yeah, there we go. So it gets that started. So what do you think my ketones are going to be? Because I have not been fasting. I've been eating for probably about 6-7 hours. All right, so drop that in the comments. All right. And so we'll take a look at that. We'll come back and we'll kind of walk through that. But you've kind of found the channel. Somebody invited you. You stumbled on it. You Googled something and this showed up. And the question that you're asking is, what in the world are we doing? What are we talking about? What is this fasting, and why are we fasting? And that is what we will kind of walk through and let you know what's happening, where we are. Before I do that, let me go ahead and hop back over and say hello to one of our community members. So Pam, smiley faces, she's saying hello all. And Steve, hello Steve. So you said hello, Pamela. And Steve is saying that he thinks that my ketones are going to be 1.0. So I'm going to go ahead and star that, and we'll come back to that here in just a minute. Okay, awesome. Well, welcome, Steve. Welcome. Thank you for coming through, and Pam as well. So fasting. So we are using fasting as a tool for reversing diabetes, right? That's it. That is the crux. That's the premise of what we're doing and why we're doing this, because we're working to reverse diabetes. Fasting is one of the most amazing tools that we have at our disposal to help us with improving our metabolic state. And I'm going to do one more thing. So, let's see. That turn off. And boom. All right. So fasting is an amazing tool because it allows us to hit the 3 pillars of reversing diabetes. And they are 1, decreasing insulin, 2, suppress appetite, and 3, reduce sugar. Now, let me hasten to say that fasting is not the only tool that does that. There are lots of other tools. We've talked about balanced bites, fueling our bodies with balanced bites. We've talked about medications, right? GLP-1 receptor agonists will do that as well. And that's why people are getting these amazing benefits that they're seeing in the space. So when we stick our hand into our toolbox, into that bag that has all of the things that we've learned for metabolic space, one of the things that we can pull out is fasting. But fasting has an amazing ability to do that. It is free, it is doable, and you can decide how to do it once you learn how it works. And so on our Dwain Woode MD Live show, we are walking through the limitless living process. What does that mean? What do we have to do to be able to improve our metabolism? In fact, the premise of limitless living is that we're breaking through all of those barriers and we're presenting our best selves, our best health, and our best plan for our life. We're not allowing anything from outside of us or anything from inside to prevent us from putting ourselves in the space where we will be successful in our health. That's what limitless living says. So all of the things that we have to confront, all the things that we have to learn, limitless living says that we've got to do it. So if you don't know how to cook, then you've got to learn how to cook, or you've got to figure out how to get food that is balanced, that is nutrient rich, nutrient dense is the phrase that we use. If you are stressed so much that you are now eating, and the eating is causing high blood sugars, and the high blood sugars are causing damage to your body because of high blood sugars and the worsening of your diabetes, then now you've got to learn how to deal with the stress. If you're having interpersonal relationship problems and that is pushing those buttons and causing a trigger so that you go sit and eating ice cream all day, then guess what you've got to do? You've got to figure out, how do I deal with that relationship? That's what limitless living says. And in the process of doing all of that, one of the things that we've learned is the fasting. And so here, as we go through these spaces, we are learning how to use the tools here, particularly fasting, how to use the tools to get us the goal that we want. How do we do that? Now, you're watching also, and you're saying, I am not diabetic, so this is not for me. Oh, wait. Before you swipe by and before you change the channel, remember that diabetes is the prototypic metabolic disease. What does that mean? That means then that if we can figure out how to manage, how to treat, how to reverse diabetes, the same tools that we are using, we can now apply to other metabolic diseases, like high blood pressure, like high cholesterol, like fatty liver, like coronary artery disease, like polycystic ovarian syndrome. And we can go on with that list. So I think of metabolic diseases, and these are these lifestyle diseases, kind of like a Christmas tree. And all the disease processes that I just named and more are like the ornaments hanging off that Christmas tree. And so if we can learn how to manage one, then they all get affected. So if we can figure out how to manage diabetes, if we can figure out how to reverse diabetes, then that same process can be applied to high blood pressure, high cholesterol, coronary artery disease, and we go on and on and on. So the reason that we're doing this is we want to know how to fast successfully, and how does that allow us to be as strategic as possible to give ourselves the best possibility of success. Right? So that's what we're doing in this space. We are learning, we're figuring out what are the things that we have to know so that we can be as successful as possible with our fasting. And that is where you've caught us. That's where you are finding us as we move through that space. So when we talk about fasting, there are several things that we want to know. And whenever I describe fasting, I talk about fasting being a part or being broken into three different areas, right? Three different areas. And the first is, how do we prepare for the fast? Then how do we successfully get through the fast? And then finally, how do we break the fast? And each of those is distinct, but is intertwined. Each of those has the processes that we've got to go through. Each of them have little tips and tricks that are unique for them, but there are things that you will see that are universal throughout the different phases. And so we'll walk through that here together. How do we fast successfully? That is the goal, to learn how do we fast successfully. And as we're doing that, the very first thing we want to do is we want to talk about how we prepare, right? So preparing for the fast is the place that we want to be. And so one of the questions is, why do we need to prepare, right? Why do we need to prepare for the fast? I thought fasting was just not eating. And that is one of the places where people will find difficulty because they think, oh yeah, I'm just not going to eat. Well, fasting is more than just not eating. Fasting involves preparation of your mental, your emotional, your social, your physical space. And it is key because how we prepare determines ultimately the success. As we move through fasting, how we got to fasting, the things that we do prior to fasting, the things that we do to prepare for the fast, sets us up for either success during the fast or sets us up to have a challenging time during the fast. And we do not want to deal with challenging times, right? We want to deal with, we want to be successful in our fast. And so preparing ultimately determines the success. We want to prepare physically. We want to prepare mentally. We want to prepare emotionally. Those are the big ones. There are others there. So like socially, environmentally, cleaning out your environment. But these are the three big ones. And this is why when I do the check-in, we talk about how we're doing physically, mentally, and emotionally. Because that's the place where often, this is where people will often find themselves with difficulty if they're not careful in the physical, in the mental, and in the emotional. And then when we fast or when we prepare, it allows us to set milestones, to set those markers on the way so that as we are moving, as we are fasting, we know that, hey, I'm hitting that marker. I'm getting to where I need to be. I'm doing what I need to do, and this process is working for me like it's supposed to work. Okay? That's what preparation for the fast does for us. It allows us to set those markers. It allows us to prepare physically, mentally, and emotionally. And then, of course, it helps to determine ultimately how things are going to go when we talk about when we get through the fast. All right. And then let's walk through. How do we prepare mentally? So mental preparation allows you to set clear goals. So you've got to know why you're fasting. Why are you fasting? Why is this a thing for you? Am I working on my diabetes, which we are doing, where we're using fasting to reverse diabetes, improve my blood sugar. I'm using it to improve my insulin resistance. I'm using it to help with my fatty liver. I'm using it to help with cholesterol. I'm using it to lose weight. So what is your reason for wanting to fast? Whatever that is, we now have to begin to visualize what success looks like. When I talk to clients, when we talk to patients, even sometimes, what I'll ask them is, "Hey, you have this goal, this thing that you want to do. What happens? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like if that doesn't happen? What does your life look like if it doesn't happen?" And they go through and they say, "Oh yeah, my coronary artery disease is going to get worse. I could have a heart attack. And they go on and on. I say, "Well, what does it look like now if you successfully do this? If you're able to successfully reverse your diabetes, what does that look like for you? What does it look like for your family?" Just the other day, I was talking to someone, and I was telling them that the thing that pushes us has to be strong enough. The why has to be strong enough to get us through those times when we don't feel like doing what we're supposed to do. And those, let me tell you, they come. There are days where you feel like, okay, if one more person says anything to me about blood sugar, if one more person tells me about my weight, if one more person tells me about taking another medication, I'm just going to lose it. All right? And so what does it feel like? What does it look like if you're successful? And then we want to educate ourselves on the fasting method that we're going to use. What fasting method is right for me? Am I going to do a 16-8? Am I going to do one meal a day? Am I going to do a 52 fast, extended fast? I'm going to do alternate day fasting, time restricted eating. What is it going to do? What am I going to do? Which one am I going to use? And so you'll have to kind of learn. On our channel, we've done several shows where we talked about fasting. We did a show where we talked about the different types of fast, the different protocols. We did a show where we talked about how or what disease processes certain fasting methods have been shown to improve. So those are out there on the channel. Make sure you get out there and watch those. And then, as you're fasting, preparing mentally, you want to begin having some affirmations around you. Affirmations are those phrases that we can use that help push us through those times when we're having challenges and having difficulties. So affirmations allow us to do that. Okay? And so I have lots of things that I do. One of the things, and you guys will see right back here, this is not an affirmation, but it is something that it wasn't designed as an affirmation, but it's something that I use as an affirmation. And that is the commitment statement that I signed when I went through, there was a program I went through as I was deciding what to do in this space, what I was decided to do online. And so we went through this process, and I signed a commitment statement of what I was going to do, what I was committing to. And I now recite that, I say that, I look at it, and I use it as an affirmation. That helps me say, okay, I am committing to providing beneficial, useful, insightful, educating material here or content here in this channel. I'm committing to providing the Triple E formula for success: educate, empower, encourage. Right? So that's the premise that we're using. And so that is one of my affirmations. So when you're working through preparing mentally, get some affirmations. These are the things that help your inner coach to be strong. Remember, we have the inner coach and the inner critic. And the inner critic is always telling us the things we've done wrong, the things we're not good at. Oh, you never succeed at that. You never follow through. Right? The inner critic is always there. And now the affirmations give the inner coach the ability to supercharge us, to push us, to help us make it through mentally when we're having those challenges. Right. So that is what's going on. That's one of the places that we need to prepare. And then of course we want to prepare also nutritionally. This part of the physical, right? We want to be able to successfully get into the fast. And one of the ways of doing that is looking at our nutrition. What am I eating? What are we eating as we are getting into the fast? Because if we come into the fast with lots of high carb, sugary foods, if that's what we just ate, then the body has to process that. The processing of it requires insulin. When insulin comes out, insulin is a hormone that delays the process of ketosis. Insulin stores food. Insulin makes our cravings go up. So coming into the fast, having just eaten a lot of high sugary processed foods will cause challenges for us, because now it sets us up for cravings. We feel like we've got to eat. We can even, if you're like me, you're like, oh man, I haven't had sugar for like 12 hours or whatever it is. You want to also increase your protein, increase your fats. On the show last night, someone asked me about what was my go-to for breaking the fast, and what is my but they didn't ask this question. What's my go-to for getting into the fast? So getting into the fast, I tend to eat chicken, I tend to eat a lot of cheese, and I tend to eat a salad. That's my go. That's getting into the fast. So I'm not gonna go eat a whole lot of sugary, carby things, right? So pasta, for example, or rice, or bread, or potatoes. Those are not in. Well, they're not in my diet generally. I mean, I do have them, but they're generally not big things that I eat anymore. Let me add that there. But they're definitely not in my meal as I'm getting into a fast. Now, when I go away, like I did last week, I'm trying to think. What did I have? I didn't. Did I have any? Did I have any? Did I have any chicken or anything like that? I didn't have any. I didn't have a lot of carbs during the time that we were away. And I'm gonna go over here and see if I can grab. Now, what I did have. Okay, yes. So what I did have was I had some Brussels sprouts, and when they did the Brussels sprouts, right? So they were kind of charred and they were broiled. And when something is charred and broiled, how do you make it? How do you get rid of that bitter kind of taste? Well, yeah, you put sugar in it, or you put some syrup in it. And I didn't realize it had it. It sure tasted good, I'll tell you that. So here is, all right, so you guys should see that. So there is the steak that I had. And these are the Brussels sprouts that I had. And here is the salad that I had. So, of course, minus the croutons. Okay? So, even as I was away, and when I got back, got on the scale, and my weight had gone down a pound. Okay? But one of the reasons I said that I was I had done a fast coming out of that was because I had been off of my game. I've been off of my routine. And so I wanted to get back on the routine. Okay. So having said that, so coming into the fast, we want to make sure that we are reducing the carby, sugary foods. We want to make sure that we are increasing fats and proteins. We want to determine specific meals that we will use before the fast. Okay, like I have my go-to, a salad. I've got some chicken, and I've got some cheese. So I don't have to think anymore, because if I'm getting ready to go into the fast and I've got to process that now and think about it, then I may eat something just because it's there, right? Because I'm trying to, it's time for me to fast in an hour. Oh, I got to go cook something. Well, no, because what we tend to grab is not really the things we want to eat. And then you want to gradually reduce your eating window. Okay, so those are the big things that we want to do when it comes to fasting. So nutritionally, we want to also prepare in terms of hydration and electrolytes. So if you don't hydrate well, during the fast, you will have symptoms like lightheadedness, sweatiness, dizziness. People will feel palpitations, and they think that the fasting is what's causing it. It's not the fasting, is that during the fast, because we didn't do a good job of hydrating, now we are actually becoming dehydrated. And when people don't eat, they tend also not to think about drinking. Okay? And then physical preparation. We want to reduce our physical activity from strenuous exercising to light exercising, like walking, swimming, yoga, etc. And you want to start doing that about 1 to 2 days before you get into the fast. And you want to aim for at least 7 hours of sleep, quality sleep. Sleep is good. There's some folks in my community, on my team, that are always reminding me that I need to sleep, and that is true. Want to make sure that you're doing that. And then you want to prepare some distractions. Right? Prepare some distractions. And this goes with our environmental preparation. Right? So clear out temptations. Look for those things that will push your buttons. Make it a fasting friendly zone, and then get some distractions, right? So plan reading, walking, meditation, something that keeps the mind occupied. And I tell people, if you're going to fast, or when you fast, don't plan to fast in a day when you're just at the house. Because if you're just sitting around the house, boredom is one of those things that pushes our buttons, that will push us to break our fast. So if you're sitting at the house, nothing to do, and you're watching TV, and the kitchen is right there, you're not distracted, you're going to be tempted, or those cravings are going to be there for you to go and eat something. Okay, so make sure you're preparing your environment. And then a very important one is to prepare emotionally and prepare socially. What does that mean? It means let the people around you know what you are doing, so that they don't plan things that interfere with the fasting, so that you don't have to feel like you're being ostracized or you're being separate. We are built for community. So if our brain has to make a decision between allowing you to keep fasting, and that takes you out of community, or say, you know what, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to fast, that takes you away, or it will break the fast. And either way, if you have not decided that that's what you're going to do, then you're going to feel guilty. That sets up that cycle, right? That emotional eating cycle. And so we eat and we feel bad about it, and then we eat more to help us feel better from eating in the first place. Okay? So we want to prepare emotionally. So some takeaways for preparing. Number one, remember, preparation is key. It sets you up for success in the fast. You want to prepare mentally. You want to make sure you're getting good rest. You want to eat nutrient-dense meals. And the one that I didn't mention is getting into community. Community. This is the group that's going to push you, pull you, carry you, allow you, give you motivation. They're going to help your inner coach become stronger. Community is huge. We had our community meetup last night for this month, and it was amazing conversation among all those community members that are there. Okay. If you're interested in getting into the community, you can do that by being a member here on the YouTube channel. Okay. So remember, so that is how we prepare for the fast. I also mentioned that we want to make sure that we get through the fast successfully. Now, getting through the fast successfully, what I want to do is I normally talk about what goes on in your body, and I break that typically into segments of 24 hours. So 0 to 24 hours, 24 to 48 hours, and of course 48 to 72 hours. And we've been doing 72 hours here in this place. Here's a place for me to pause. Right? And I told you that I actually this is my third fast that I'm on right now for the week. Your fasting schedule is your fasting schedule. Alternate day fasting says you eat one day, fast the next. Eat one day, fast the next. Eat one day, fast the next. Time restricted eating, which is a fasting method, says that I am going to only eat during the period when I'm supposed to be eating, and I'm not going to eat during the period when I'm supposed to be sleeping. So what time restricted eating says, I'm going to order my fasting and eating windows to correspond with my circadian rhythm. Because there are some certain things that happen in the body when we're supposed to be sleeping, and if we're eating during that time, then those processes don't happen. One meal a day, another method. And so as I've been doing the 72-hour fast, right? I think there was one week we did a 96-hour, we did a 106-hour fast. So I am adjusting the fasting to be the tool for my life. And so as I mentioned, I had to do some cooking. And I taste when I cook, because I'm not good enough yet to just put the stuff in and have people eat it. Maybe I'll get good enough one day to be able to do that. Okay? And so because I was cooking, I was at 59 hours, I think is what it was, 57 hours. And so I interrupted the fast. I cooked, I tasted, and then went back, then started again. And so the blood sugars that you were seeing were me coming out of the fast because I was cooking, eating, right, and then saying, okay, now let's get back in. And so you can do that. But you've got to listen to yourself. You've got to know what's going on in your body, and you've got to decide, right? The big thing here, and I guess I'm going to spend some time talking about this. There are hormonal changes that are happening in your body. There are things that are going on in terms of breaking down the food and all of that biochemistry that's happening. The biochemistry is going to happen like it happens when it should happen. That's not usually where we find the problem. Where we find the problem is here. Because we have cravings, we have those routines that we're used to, so we are anticipating, okay, at 12 o'clock we're going to eat. Or my team is going to go to lunch, and I see them, and I'm pushed to eat. The biochemistry happens like it's supposed to happen, but it is our ability to successfully make it through the fast because of how we think about fasting that sometimes is the issue. And so one of the most important things to determine is the difference between, or understand the difference between psychological hunger and physical hunger. And so physical hunger is that hunger where the body says, I need energy. I need energy to run your heart and your lungs and your muscles and your brain. I need you to find energy. I need you to go eat. That's physical hunger. Also physiologic hunger. Psychological hunger says, man, that thing that I want to eat, I remember what it tastes like. I remember the thing that it does for me, the calm that it brings. I remember when mama made it. It was the thing that I ate that one time when I was feeling bad and made me feel so good. That doesn't have anything to do with what the body needs. It has everything to do with what we think we need to buffer, to get us through whatever is happening in that space. Okay? All right. So when we talk about the first 24 hours of fasting, we're going to break this down into 6 hour chunks. And so the first 6 hours really is the postprandial phase. This is where the body's actually breaking the food down. The blood sugars are high, insulin levels are high, the body is breaking the food, taking the nutrients out of it, and is beginning to store some of it. It's using some of it for building muscles and bone and enzymes. It's taking some of it and it's running your heart and your liver and your lung, right? So this is the energy just came and the body's chopping it up and using it for what it needs. This is called the postprandial phase. The 6 to 12 hour period is what's called early fasting stage or state. This is where insulin levels are starting to go down. Glucagon is starting to come up because the blood sugar levels are starting to drop. Gluconeogenesis, right? That's the breaking down of glycogen because the body took some, sent it to your liver, and it's storing it there. And now it's saying, hey, my blood sugars are going down. I need you to kind of mobilize some of that for me so I can use it. And your energy levels may begin to fluctuate during this period. Sometimes people will feel this if they're not well rested. They'll feel this as a waning in energy. And it's just that the body is not out of energy, but the blood sugars are going down because it's using it up. And it's now having to go to the liver to get energy from there in the form of or breaking down the glycogen. And then the next 6 hours from 12 to 18 hours is called, this is when we're transitioning to fat, transitioning to using fat. So glucose levels continue to go down, insulin levels continue to go down. The body now is sensing that, hey, I'm gonna have to start thinking soon about switching to another fuel source, and fatty acids are starting to be released from the fat stores. The liver starts gluconeogenesis, that is making sugar, making glucose from non-glucose sources. Yeah. And then, of course, the energy levels may dip during this time. People can feel irritable. They may feel hungry during this time. They may feel energy dropping. And this is because the body, once again, is transitioning to or beginning to start that transition to fat. The next 12 hours, right, 18 to 24 hours or 6 hours, we're talking about where ketosis begins. And remember, when the body is not able to burn sugar, it starts to burn fat. When it burns fat, it produces ketones. So ketones really are a byproduct of burning fat. And one of the ketones that we like is that beta hydroxybutyrate, because the brain likes it, the muscles like it. Yeah, some goodness there. So that's the ketosis. Ketosis is beginning during this period. And we want to understand these things that are going on so that we can begin picking the right type of fasting for what we want, and we understand what is going on, right, in the various phases. And then the next phase is what's called fat adaptation, and this is where this is the 24 to 30 hour period. This is where the body has had significant drops in glucose, and now ketones are becoming prevalent. They're becoming plentiful. Fat oxidation is increasing, and we're now in earnest pulling energy out of the fat cells and pushing it so that the body can now use the ketones for energy. Okay. And so the last phase is breaking the fast. And breaking the fast, as I said before, is just as important as getting us preparing for the fast and making it through the fast, because if we don't do a good job here, then this sets us up for reversing and or undoing a lot of the things that we did within the fast itself. And one of the big things that people will struggle with is what to eat after the fast. I tend to break my fast with bone broth and with salad. And you see, salad is a constant recurring item for me, because it is, for me, easily digestible. There are carbs in it, but they don't spike my blood sugar. I can have a lot of variety. I like crunchiness, right? So it satisfies for me all of the various sensory things that I need. If I want a little bit sweeter, I make sure that I include tomatoes in there. It's got my fat, so I've got my cheese. Sometimes I'll do chicken, right? So I've got some protein in there, or eggs. The cheese also gives me some protein, right? So I am crafting. I'm using the breaking the meal. I have a standard thing that I tend to go to. I'll even at the office, go down to the cafeteria on Thursdays, and I'll create a salad that I will use to break the fast on Fridays. And you guys have seen me. Do that here in this space. But when we talk about breaking the fast, some kind of tips. Number one, we want to monitor. I cannot emphasize enough monitoring, right? So I love the fact that I'm able to see what my blood sugar is at any moment because I'm using a continuous glucose monitor. You may not use a continuous glucose monitor, but you may use just a regular glucose meter. That's fine. But you've got to be able to monitor so you can see what the blood sugars do. That's someone calling me. That's my wife. What my sugars do as I am doing different things, as I'm eating, as I'm breaking the fast, as I'm exercising, as I'm sleeping. All of those things are things that I want to know what's going on. And then portion control. Often it's not that we have done or eaten the wrong thing that causes the problem. It's the fact that we are eating too much of a particular thing, right? And if we're not careful, that undoes a lot of the stuff we did during the fast, because now what happens is we have those spikes in our blood sugar, and those spikes in our blood sugar cause the insulin to come out. Insulin comes out, and insulin causes all of those metabolic issues that happen with us. Okay, and then we want to eat slowly. It takes about 20 minutes for a message to fully get to the brain that we're full. So if you're eating and you just scarf it down, you may have scarfed down 3 times as much food as you need to because the signal has not gotten to your brain yet. Right? So you want to make sure that you are that you're eating slowly. Sending a message to my wife that you're eating slowly. Okay, and then you want to avoid sugary, highly processed foods. That's key. Once again, because just like we came into the fast, and if we're eating sugary things, they cause spike in blood sugar, spike in insulin. It makes it difficult for us to stay in the fast. But now, on the other end, if we eat those same types of foods, then the insulin goes up, just like at the beginning. And now that causes cravings. And for the next 24, 36, and sometimes longer, we are eating those things that we said we didn't want to eat. Because we're being pushed. Our buttons are being pushed to eat those things. Okay? All right. And then hydration. Just like hydration was important at the beginning, hydration is important during the fast. You want to make sure that you are hydrating after the fast. Because if you're not hydrated, you will sometimes sense that as hunger, and we mistake dehydration for hunger. So making sure that you're doing a good job of hydrating. Things like water, of course, coconut water, unsweetened, right? So not the highly sweetened one. Herbal teas, right? Non-caffeinated teas will help. Don't go right away and drinking lots of beverages that have a lot of caffeine, because that stimulates you and it just sets you up to go down the path of eating things that you did not want to eat. Okay. And then as you're thinking about your meals, make sure you're adding good protein, eggs, chicken, turkey, tofu, not a lot of things that will upset the stomach initially, right? So gradually get into it. Like I said, I eat a salad, I drink bone broth or a broth, and then I eat something else. If I find myself at the time when I'm breaking the fast eating, even if it's not highly sugary food, if I'm eating very complex, heavy foods, I'm going to have a problem downstream because I want to keep eating like that. Okay, so lots of protein. And then, of course, healthy fats. Both proteins and fats will help to make you feel fuller longer. They will send a signal to the brain that you're full. It will keep your stomach stretched. They will slow the GI tract so that the food doesn't just pass through. And then, of course, broths are very good because they keep you hydrated and they give you the ability to get some nutrients in without undoing some of those things that we did in the fast. Now, I try my best, and notice what I say, try my best to prolong the ketosis part of the fasting as long as possible afterwards. And when I say long, I'm not talking about days and days. We have community members that are in ketosis and they try to maintain ketosis on a consistent basis. I don't do that. When I'm eating, I eat balanced meals, but they are not ketogenic meals. But when I break my fast, I will try to eat things that won't cause big spikes in blood sugar, because I know once the blood sugar spikes, then we're off to the races, because my cravings come. And when those cravings come, they cause me some issues. Okay? And then, so that's the broth. And then we want to share with you some considerations. So when you're breaking a fast, you want to choose foods that help maintain stable blood sugars, so we don't want a whole lot of ups and downs, and at the same time provide nutritional value and that are gentle on the digestive system. Nutrition, stable blood sugars, and gentle. Those are the three criteria when we're breaking the fast. And you want to focus on low glycemic index foods. You want to make sure you have good lean protein in there, healthy fats, and you want to make sure that you are continuing to remain hydrated. So how do we fast successfully? That's it. We've got to prepare for the fast. We've got to make sure that we are not getting a lot of stressful times during the fast. We're not just coming out of a fast, of a stressful time. We're not going into a stressful time, right? So we're preparing for the fast. We want to get through the fast successfully, and we do that by understanding what's going on in our bodies and understanding that it's not just that I'm not eating. There are lots of factors that go there. And we want to make sure that we're breaking the fast in a way that gives us the best chances of being successful, that we are not undoing the things that we did within the fast. So that is how we fast successfully. All right, and so we want to make sure that we are continuing in this journey, this limitless living journey, and that we're setting ourselves up for the best possibility of success. Remember that we are building everything that we do on the Triple E formula for success, and that we educate, we empower, and we encourage. Here on the channel, that's what I do. We educate with the shows, with the podcasts, with the blogs. We encourage, or we empower with the tools that we learn, fasting being one of those tools. And we encourage with the community that you are building, that you are part of, that you're helping to grow. Let's take a look at what my blood sugars are. Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up my Keto Mojo app. Let's get rid of that thing. And go ahead and turn the Keto Mojo on. And go ahead and get that synced. And I think Steve said he thought my ketones were going to be 1.0. So drum roll, please. Drum roll. Here we are. And, so blood sugar of 145 and ketones of 1.2. You see that? 1.2. So when we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal, 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. So when we're talking about metabolism and ketogenic weight loss and all of that, we want ketones in this space to be 0.5 or higher. Okay, so that's where we want to hang our hat. All right, so I'm always excited that I'm here, get to spend some time with you. Once again, I see Pamela and Steve that are out there, and all of you who are watching from other platforms. Come along and say hello. Drop a line and say hi. We love to interact with you and let you know that we're excited that you're here. But we will be back tomorrow at 9 p.m. we will be back, but we will have our show with this videos from the vault. On Sunday morning at 6 a.m., we will be having This Week in Review, and that's at 6 a.m. Central. And then on Monday, we'll be right back here for Dwain Woode MD Live. Glad that you're here. Happy to be here with you. Have a great weekend. And we are working. We are breaking free from those boundaries, those obstacles. We're presenting our best self. We're presenting our best health and our best plans for our life. We're not allowing anything from inside or outside of us to prevent us from reaching those metabolic goals like reversing our diabetes. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life and go to the next level. And then this year, we're living that limitless life. All right, have a great one, everybody.